participating. Now it's time to move into the meat of our session this evening. Our presenter this evening is a licensed clinical psychologist, served as a developer and implementer of several programs at the Ministry of Youth, including the Creativity and Entrepreneurship Business Opportunity Program. She worked as one of the primary developers and served for 2 years as the assistant administrator for the Transitional Alternative Program for students. She worked as a school psychologist with the Ministry of Education. She's a part time psychology lecturer at the College of the Bahamas. She's affiliated with, first, an author of two fictional novels, My Name is Karma, and My Name is Karma Journey to the Truth. She's the Bahamas National Youth Policy Team co facilitator. She holds the Advanced Communicator Silver Confident Leader. She was a part of Toastmasters International Division I Club 717A from 2004. She was also the vice president membership of our club 2006, and she was also Miss Earth Bahamas for the year 2005 2006. Please help me welcome to the virtual lectern Toastmaster, Nadia Cash.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This feels familiar and very strange all at the same time to be back in the wonderful halls of Toastmasters Club 7178. I am so happy to be here. I am so happy that I got the opportunity to speak with you and to share the little that I know about FAIR with you. I am thankful to be able to be invited to the club tonight, to be able to talk to everybody. I have become a lecturer at heart. So there will be times when I will be asking questions and I expect full participation, and just to make the whole session much more of an immersive experience for everybody. So it's not just going to be me talking, it's going to be all of us talking at some times. I also have some really cool things that I want to do with you so that you can be able to be fully immersed in this. So first of all, I just want to say hey to all of my fellow Toastmasters. I haven't seen you guys in such a long time. It makes me so happy. Okay, so hi Michael, hi Pam, hi Anthony, hey guys, so good to see all of you. And okay, I'm gonna try to keep my arms down. Please don't count those against me. It's been a while, okay? So let's get started. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I wanna be able to share with you, if that is possible. Yes, I think it is. Okay, good. All right, so let me go to, you would think that after 16 years of lecturing that this whole Zoom sharing PowerPoint stuff would be easier. It never gets easier, trust me. So let's talk about Face Your Fears. So there is a book that I got a quote from. It's a book from a lady named Karen Salmanson. The name of the book is How to Be Happy, Damn It. Sorry, bleep. And there is a story that she wrote about, and I wanted to share the story with you. There once was this criminal who had committed a crime because, hey, that's what criminals do. That's their job. Anyway, he was sent to the king for his punishment. The king told him he had a choice of two punishments. He could either be hung by a rope, or he could take behind the big, dark, scary, mysterious iron door. The criminal quickly decided on the rope. As the noose was being slipped on him, he turned to the king and asked, "By the way, out of curiosity, what's behind the door?" The king laughed and said, "You know, it's funny. I offer everyone the same choice, and nearly everyone picks the rope. So," said the criminal, "tell me, what's behind the door? I mean, obviously, I won't tell anybody," he said, pointing to the noose around his neck. The king paused, then answered, "Freedom. But it seems most people are so afraid of the unknown that they immediately take the rope." We all think that we would be the sensible person and take the unknown door. But how often do we do that in life? Veer away from the unknown because it's just that, the unknown. We may give up an opportunity to meet a new group of people, or not take the chance to give a presentation because it scares us to death. As a matter of fact, how many of us are in Toastmasters now to overcome this fear of public speaking? My Toastmaster journey began when I decided to take a leap into pageantry because I had a hairdresser at that time, and she had been bugging me to do so for a very long time. Plus, the way that she got me into pageantry was she promised me a year's worth of free hair appointments if only I would enter the pageant. I didn't want to I didn't want to join the pageant simply because I was afraid. I was afraid of public speaking. I was afraid of being judged by people. I was afraid of having to go against my naturally shy nature to actually socialize with people. And mostly, even above and beyond, standing in a swimsuit in the front of hundreds of people, I was afraid of that dreaded final question, which it was terrifying. I was living in trepidation of that final question. See, I know I was going to find a way to fit that in there somewhere. But free hair appointments for a year, though? I mean, for all of us who get our hair did, you know how wonderful that is. So that far outweighed my fears. I presented the idea to a good friend and Toastmaster who has unfortunately passed away, Toastmaster Veronda Stewart. She got incredibly excited at the idea and invited me to my very first Toastmasters meeting. What she didn't tell me was about the absolutely dreaded and fear-filled moment of the impromptu question and answer period known as table topics. She did not tell me about that. My good friend brought me into the meeting and did not tell me about table topics. She didn't pre-warn me about the session, and she also did not pre-warn me that she was going to announce during visitor time that I was there because I wanted to enter a pageant. So, needless to say, when the table topics question came up, I was a target. Up until that point, I had vehemently avoided any sort of public speaking efforts. When my name got called, to be honest, I froze. My mind went blank, my heart pounded, my mouth was dry. Despite the air conditioning, I was sweating. But as I stood to give my answer, I felt like I was going to fall out. Does this sound familiar to anybody back when we were in person and having to do that table topic session? Astonishingly, though, I took a look around the room and was encouraged by all of the smiling faces. I gave my answer, the few words that I had managed to string together in my head, and to my ever supplies, they all clapped. Now, mind you, I don't know if they were just clapping because they were being polite, but however, they clapped. I sat and felt relieved. Not only that that experience was over for now, but that I had done one of the things that I thought that I was never, ever going to do. So take a moment and think about the things that scare you, that make you feel afraid or anxious. So there are some nice little pictures. They all look nice and happy, but those things can bring very intense fears to people. Oh, there are some pictures of me in the pageant, just in case you wanted to know that I'm not lying. But yes, it happened. So what is fear? As was mentioned before, fear is an emotional response. Keep that in mind. Fear is an emotional response to impending danger, pain, or harm that is tied to anxiety, which, according to a psychodynamic theorist called Karen Horney, that's her real name, is an individual's reaction to real or imagined danger. Fear can run from mild to overwhelming, which, as was mentioned before, we call phobias. Fears can be personal, something that can only be experienced by you, or it can be a collective fear, which we have termed mass hysteria. People can fear anything from death and dying to, and there are some terms down there, to getting germs, which after COVID, I mean, how many fears have been released or realized for germophobia? Fears of the dark or being in tight spaces, social phobias, which we have included our fear of public speaking, which there have been some people who have said that has been greater than the fear of death. Also, fears can go to the silliest little things. And I found these two and I thought that they were hilarious. So speaking of trying to pronounce funny words, arachibutyrophobia, which is the fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth. And this last one, I had a good little chuckle about. Anatidaephobia is the fear that somewhere, somehow, a duck is watching you. I have also had friends who have had fear of live fish. I had a friend who feared cotton balls touching his skin. I have known people who have feared water. So as a clinical psychologist, I get to see all of these fears. Fear tends to be a survival instinct. However, I want to propose to you today a different way of looking at fear. That fear is a learned behavior. Back in the 1900s, there was a gentleman by the name of John B. Watson. He is a behavioral therapist. He performed an experiment on a baby. This was when the ethical code was a little bit sketchy. And he performed an experiment on a baby, and he wanted to figure out whether or not the baby would be able to gain a fare. What he did with this little baby that they call Little Albert was they wanted to say if he would be afraid of white rats. So they took baby Albert, who was less than a year old, and they put him in a room. Now, I don't know how many of you have kids or are around kids, but if you are around babies or newborns or toddlers, you would realize that they are fearless, i.e., they would put anything in their mouths. And so little Albert, when he was in the room with the little white rat, he started crawling towards it. So what they would do, or what the behavioral psychologist did, was every time little Albert started crawling towards the rat, he would make a very loud noise, which would obviously naturally scare little Albert. He repeated this process several times. Eventually, it came to be that little Albert, whenever he started seeing the little white rat, became afraid of it. So we call that process conditioning, classical conditioning to be exact. When you pair something that was formerly neutral or non-fear inducing with a natural response, enough times it creates a fear response. So how is it, and once again, feel free to unmute your mics. How is it that you think that babies come to fear insects? Anybody?
To the parents?
Through their parents. What is it that their parents do exactly?
It depends on the insect. Sometimes the parents might scream, might try to brush it off, give them some, rash and rushed reaction. So just different motions and movements, I feel.
Yes. So if you ever notice, and I have a personal story, which I've moved past the point of embarrassment for a lot of my stories, considering that I've been teaching for so long. But I remember my mom telling me the story of when I was possibly maybe about 6 months. I was sitting on the kitchen floor and she was in the kitchen. She stepped out for a second. When she came back, she looked at me and I had half a roach hanging out of my mouth, which once again, if you know anything about newborns or kids, they don't fear anything. It was more so curiosity. I am telling myself the story. It was more so curiosity, right? So she walks up to me and she screams. This is what my mom says. She screams and then she violently yucks me off the floor, puts me over her arm and starts hitting my back really hard to get the roach out. When I refuse to let go of the roach, she takes her finger and shoves it in my mouth to pull the roach out. Natural behavior response to whenever kids are eating things that they're not supposed to eat. Now imagine that and how scarring that must have been for little 6-month-old me to be able to be treated in such a violent manner to something as innocent as a roach. Now I know some of you are looking at me like, Nadia, innocent roach, no, especially those flying ones. Yeah, but they're still innocent in the eyes of a child. So that created in me, I'm not going to say a fear, I'm going to say an intense hatred of all insects. But for some people, that could create in them an intense fear or even a phobia, which has been described before as an intense, overwhelming fear that sometimes stops the behavior of persons, a phobia of insects. So I say all that to say, we learn our fears. Now, there are 2 fears that we are innately born with. Does anybody know what they are?
I think one is the fear of falling.
Yes.
What about the
And
dog?
Fear of heights?
no.
Drowning or choking.
No.
Dying.
No.
The fear of being in a car alone.
No.
Loud noises.
Loud noises. Who is that? We have 2 innate fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Those are the 2 fears, according to biologists, that we are born with. We are born with 2 fears, falling and loud noises. I know you're looking at me strange, like you just said that, Nadia, but no, I want that to settle in. We are only born with 2 fears. Yes.
Yet baby still is follow the bear. They run and jump out.
Yes, well, that's a whole nother issue. that's a big, long explanation to that. But yes, but those are our 2 innate fears. So that should tell you that if we are only born with 2 fears, that every other fear in your life is learned. You have learned the things that you fear. You have experienced them enough or have had them conditioned enough in your life to the point where they have now become fears to you. So if you learn something, that obviously means
You can unlearn it.
you can unlearn it. There you go. Yay. So that's why we're here tonight. We're here to talk about how do you unlearn those fears? How do you get over those? This is like, it's mind-blowing when you actually get it. When it settles into your mind and your spirit, it's mind-blowing. Because the thing about it is, fear is one of those things that stops us from doing so much in life. Fear is one of those things that hinders us from becoming whatever we think our best selves are. So finding the way to face your fears, to conquer them, it changes you massively. And I can tell you that I am a product of my own teaching. So let's talk about how to face your fears, because that's what you're here for. We all have different levels of risk tolerance. So I came up with several methods. So choose which method fits you best, because it's not going to all fit us. The first way seems to be the most obvious way, but yet it's the most challenging way. It goes according to Nike's slogan, and I've heard Toastmaster Simone say it. I've heard President Trevor Lockhart say it. Just do it. Does somebody have mic on? Sorry. Okay, there you go. Just do it. In psychology, we have a technical name for it. It's called flooding, but just do it. It's the equivalency of going on a show, and I want to say warning, you know, for anybody who gets grossed out really quickly for my next slide, but going on a show like Fear Factor and being immersed in your deepest fears. Now, the thing about it is, people won't pay you $10,000 to overcome your fear, which I think is the prize money for doing something like laying in a bath full of scorpions or snakes or spiders or ants or cockroaches or whatever, which is insane to me. But people won't pay you $10,000 to get rid of your fear. But the principle behind it is, what is your motivation? What is your motivation to get over a fear? If the pain threshold of what you're missing out is higher than your fear, you will be motivated to take this method and just do the thing that you fear. I have a friend who has this philosophy. And because this friend has been a part of my life for so long, I have adopted this philosophy. So he has this life philosophy. One day when we were considering doing something, his thought was, it was something that he never did before. And so he made the statement, he said, I'll try anything at least once. And so I have adopted that philosophy. However, because of trial and error, my new philosophy is, I will try almost anything at least once. Not anything, not anymore. But that got expanded upon by American composer Virgil Thompson, who said, try a thing you haven't done 3 times. Once, to get over the fear of doing it. Twice, to learn how to do it. And a 3rd time, to figure out whether or not you like it. Try a thing at least 3 times. Now, I was saying try it once, but he's saying try it 3 times. So there are several things I have to go back over and find and try again. Sometimes you have to just do it. Just get up and do the thing that you're dreading. I have participated, and I do give credit, a lot of credit to Toastmasters for this. I have participated in rock climbing, exploring dark areas during camping, jumping on terrifying roller coasters, giving speeches in the front of hundreds of people, and most fearful of all, worn a swimsuit for 2 hours straight in the front of millions of people because of this philosophy. Sometimes my choices haven't been the greatest of decisions that I've made, but I can tell you, and I can honestly tell you this, I have rarely ever regretted an opportunity to overcome a fear. A benefit to this method is it makes you bolder and gives you more courage to attack the next fear. Now, when I have to teach a class of unwilling freshmen or speak about sex to a group of college students, which is terrifying, I gain confidence and comfort knowing that I have probably done something a lot more daring in the past and a lot more stupid. For those who might be less risk tolerant, there is hope. A second way to overcome fear is through what we call systematic desensitization. Systematic desensitization is the method of gradually exposing yourself to a fearful event or situation and overcoming the fear-filled response at each level. This usually requires you to know what your fear levels are. So I have some fears associated with social anxiety. Now, we're talking about facing your fear. Can anybody face their fear and rank these fears for me in order from 1 to 11? 1 being the least fearful thing, 11 being, oh my gosh, it's just going to kill me if I do this. Does anybody want to take that challenge?
Well, I'll list you want us to start from, I'll
From
do
1
the
to
first one,
11.
the least, what I think would be the least.
Okay.
Going to a party.
Okay. Then,
Right? Then defending yourself.
okay.
And then paying a compliment.
Okay.
Accepting a compliment.
Okay.
Speaking to a stranger on the phone.
Okay.
Going to a party alone.
That's 6.
Mhm. Correcting someone.
7.
Asking for help.
8.
Stating a contrary opinion.
9.
Speaking to going on a blind date. Sorry, no, let me put speaking to a stranger on the phone, going on a blind date, and then meeting someone new.
Okay. Thank you so much for being brave. Let's go. But then again, you're president, so you have to
So
be
that
brave.
was terrifying. That was terrifying. Wow.
All right, let's get one more person. Does anybody else want to rank?
Meeting someone new,
Okay.
that give me a little bit of nervousness. You don't know who they are, and it's just, you don't, at least the fear is you don't know if you will gel, how well that will go, and what are the differences, or how will we be indifferent.
Okay.
But I've overcome that now, and just like suggested earlier, just do it.
Mhm. So that's 1. You're only going to give us 1? Okay.
Ali, you're supposed to be listing them from least scary to more scary, most scary.
So I was supposed to say something else, sorry.
Yes, you're supposed to rank them from least scary to most scary.
Oh, okay. So least scary is going to a party alone, paying someone a compliment, asking for help, stating a contrary opinion, defending myself,
It's 5.
speaking to a stranger on the phone, going on a blind date and meeting someone new.
Okay. So correcting someone, would that be on the higher or lower scale?
Depends on what it is. It could be on the higher, because if it's something really sensitive, yeah, there's, don't want to touch that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So based upon what your fear tolerance is, some people like, for example, my scales would be anything to do with doing anything alone. So that's the least scary thing for me. Going to a party alone, sitting alone at a table, anything like that. On the higher scale for me, my scale would be correcting someone or stating a contrary opinion. So that would be my social anxiety scales. Like if you want to get me to just freeze, having me to have to correct someone, which I am slowly facing my fears and getting over. Once again, 16 years teaching, you learn how to do that very quickly. But it depends on who you are. And so one of the things that we do with fairs is that we work on what we call a hierarchy of fairs. And a hierarchy of fairs pretty much is just stating your fairs from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. So whatever your fair is, ranking them from 1 being the least fearful thing that you can do to 5 being the most fearful thing that you can do. And then what we do is this wonderful, wonderful activity, which we call deep breathing and progressive muscle relaxation. So deep breathing and progressive muscle relaxation, they sound like fancy terms, but all it is really is fear is an emotional response. And what the emotions do is the emotions get your physiology to be raised to a level to the point where your adrenaline kicks in. And we all know that adrenaline either causes you to fight or to flee or to freeze. And so what we want to do in those fearful situations is we want to get your physiology to calm down. So remember me saying at the beginning when I got called on for that dreaded table topic session that first time, all of the physical things that happened to me. My heart started beating faster. My mouth got dry. My legs turned to jelly. I couldn't, like, my mind felt like it was in a fog. I started getting butterflies in my stomach. My breathing started to get shallower. All of those things are a physiological response to fear. So what we do is we teach persons how to control those physiological responses, therefore being able to allow you to see that you can face your fear. So what I want to do, just to take a couple of minutes and real quick, teach you how to do a bit of deep breathing. So for all of you, and I am going to, you know, if I make any comments about people not paying attention, it really is because of this virtual, I understand people are doing many different things when they are on virtual calls. I have students. And so if I make little jabs though saying, you know, if you're paying attention, that's only because I know that you're probably not. But anyway, so let's all take a moment to do a bit of deep breathing. Okay, everybody down for that?
Yay!
Yay! All right.
Yeah.
Woo! Okay, so wherever you are, whatever you're doing, this is only going to take a minute or two. I want you to sit in a comfortable position. And I want you to take one hand and put it on your chest and one hand and put it on your abdomen. Of course, you can't see my abdomen because it's all the way down here. And I want you to breathe normally. So one hand on your chest, one hand on your abdomen, breathe normally. So just breathe, just breathe. What I want you to notice is which hand is moving more. Is it the hand on your chest or is it the hand on your abdomen? Is the one in your abdomen being pushed out more or is the one in your chest being pushed out more?
On my abdomen.
On your abdomen, good. Anybody else notice which one is moving, being pushed out more?
Abdomen.
Yes.
Okay. So for those whose chest is being pushed out more, that's showing that you're not breathing as deeply as you possibly could. And when you're not getting the oxygen, enough oxygen into your body starts to panic. And that kind of helps to speed up your heart rate. That helps to make you feel like you're choking, like you're drowning. And so what we do is we just teach you to, once again, sit in a comfortable position. Put your hands on your abdomen. If you want to, you can close your eyes. Just please don't fall asleep. And I want you to take a deep breath in, hold it, and breathe out. Take another deep breath in, hold it, and breathe out. One more. Deep breath in, hold it, and breathe out. Now, the whole thing is when you take that deep breath in, the air is supposed to go all the way to your diaphragm, which is supposed to push out your stomach. So when you take that deep breath in, your stomach expands, you hold it there for a little bit, and then you let it all out, and your stomach is supposed to contract. When you start breathing like that, then you know that the oxygen is definitely getting through to your lungs. And it allows your body to be able to pump more oxygen through your system and allowing you to be able to feel a lot more calm. Okay? Now, the progressive muscle relaxation, we don't have time for that. That could be a whole nother session if y'all ever invite me to come back. But that could be a whole nother session. But whenever you feel afraid, one of the easiest things for you to do is notice your breathing and be able to take that deep breath in, to hold it for about 3 to 5 seconds, and to let it out. And that automatically brings calm to your body. So, tennis player Arthur Ashe says, every time you win, it diminishes the fear a little bit. You never really cancel the fear of losing. You keep challenging it. So you attacking those fears at separate levels allows you to be able to challenge those fears, to be able to attack them head on, to keep on saying to them, hey, you have no power over me. Doesn't mean the fear goes away completely, but the fear does diminish. Now, for some people who tend to be more planning oriented, fears can be overcome by setting goals. In this instance, it's not the matter of overcoming the fear, but desiring something more powerful than the fear. An author I follow, Michael Hyatt, says, you lose your way when you lose your why. You lose your way when you lose your why. Nursing a fear can be equivalent to losing your why. Why do you want to get rid of that fear? Why do you want the thing that you want? Once you settle on your why, setting a goal to achieve that thing should be easier. Just in case you need help, however, I have a few suggestions. I ran across this quote, and this quote has literally changed my life. Story for another time. But I just wanted to share this quote with you. It's from, and forgive me, I have been practicing this name all day, so if I get it wrong, I apologize. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. So the quote's a little bit long, but once again, it is life-changing. It says, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidences, meetings, and material assistance, which no man could have ever dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do or dream, you can. Begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. Whew. That's just, whew, yes, that gets me. So let me put it right back so you can read through it. So during my fear busting exercises, I read this quote over and over and over until it's stuck in my subconscious brain. Speaking of the brain, it is so amazing. Do you know that there is a part of your brain called the reticular activating system? It's connected to the spinal cord at its base. It's the place where your thoughts, internal feelings, and outside influences meet. Its primary functions include controlling sleep and wakefulness, but it also acts as a sifting system for the information that gets into your brain. It acts as a messenger of information between your conscious and your unconscious mind. Without the RAS, you would be constantly barraged with such excessive amounts of information that you would go into sensory overload and be subsequently overwhelmed. Fortunately, with the help of the RAS, that doesn't have to happen, as the RAS helps your brain to register what matters most to you, what is relevant based on your values, needs, interests, and goals. So in other words, once you place something in your subconscious, your RAS starts to filter out anything that isn't related to it. And one of the things that I found to be so fascinating about this is these two things right here. I don't know if you can see my little mouse moving around, but the RAS allows you to focus on what you value, and it allows you to perceive threat. So anything else that's unrelated to those things, it just filters out. So a few years ago, I got to meet a lovely gentleman who unfortunately passed away since then. His name was Lou Tice, and he was the head of the Pacific Institute in Seattle, Washington. And I do call this an act of God. And once again, this is another story for another time, because trust me, it is a very interesting story. I got to be a part of a seminar that I was completely not planning on being a part of, that changed my life. So I got to meet Mr. Tice, and he had a few principles that I'd like to share with you. One of the things he spoke about was scotomas. Does anybody know what a scotoma is?
No idea.
Yay, we're all learning new words tonight. Yay. So a scotoma is a blind spot. It's something that you can't see. So I have a fun video for you. I hope that you enjoy it as much as I enjoy watching it. So I'm going to stop share and I'm going to put on my video. Hopefully everybody's watching, because this is really interesting. Like seriously, I'm not going to just say it's interesting. It's not interesting. It actually is really interesting. So once again, the screen sharing thing. Okay. So I want everybody to look at this video. It's literally less than 2 minutes, and just watch.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Why, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
But how did you know?
Madam, as any horticulturist will tell you, one does not plant petunias until May is out. Take her away.
Sorry, madam.
Okay. So before I showed the second half of that video, did anybody notice anything different? I'm sorry, I'm smiling because I know.
The maid was polishing in the bedroom, polishing the pots in the bedroom. Is that it?
Okay. Anybody knows anything different? Anything change? Anything? Anything?
Well, what I did notice was appears to be a butler. He was buttering scones, but it didn't seem like maybe had a candle holder so in his hand, so it didn't seem like that's probably what he was doing.
Okay. Anybody knows anything else different?
The clock was on the ground. Somebody knocked it over.
Okay. All right. So I'll keep you out of suspense because I realize my time needs to be wrapped up. So the funny thing is, what we were focusing on was the murder and who did it. But there was so much more going on. So let me finish playing that video for you.
It's just a matter of observation. The real question is, how observant were you?
And action.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Why, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow. Wow, that's very amazing. Wow.
A whole new jacket, a whole new body, a whole new background. Everything changed. And we didn't notice because we were focused on one thing. So yes.
Wow.
There you go. So that shows you scotomas can change your life. With regards to fear, fear acts as a scotoma. It blocks your mind from seeing possibilities. It blocks your mind from seeing what could be. Because of your past conditioning, it stops you from seeing what could be. Scotomas can work for you to help you to focus, but they can also be bad. Suppose you tell yourself all your life, I can't write that book. Your mind starts to now block out everything related to that because your brain does not see it as a value. In fact, what happens, because you already labeled this as a threat, your brain actively resists anything towards that. When you're looking forward to something, you get the energy to do it. For example, if you want to go to a party or attend an event, you get energy. Similarly, if you don't want to do something, your energy level drops. For me, exercising, my energy level always drops when it's time to do that. Therefore, what you have to do is to change your attitude towards what you're looking at in order to accomplish it. This helps you to overcome the fear of doing it. Wayne Gretzky, and I'm sure this is a played out quote, but it still makes sense. You'll always miss 100% of the shots you don't take. There's a Chinese proverb that says, one cannot refuse to eat just because there is a chance of choking. Lou Tice also said, stretch yourself. The goal comes first, then you see it. If you don't know what you're looking for, you will definitely not see it. You tend to seek the familiar and the comfortable. So you tend to want to stay in your comfort zone. But your comfort zone keeps you the way that you are. You need to familiarize yourself with your bigger dreams. Practice them over and over. Visualize yourself at the next level. Your subconscious stimulates creativity. When you play something in your subconscious level over and over, you become familiar with it. So the more you visualize yourself seeing and overcoming that fear, the more you're going to move towards that. But if you visualize yourself not overcoming that fear, guess what? You're not going to overcome it. Visualize seeing yourself starting that new business or meeting with that multi-million-dollar potential client and landing that sale. See yourself as having that hard conversation and things turning out well, or even walking up to that person who you were afraid to talk to and saying, hey, whatever it is that you fear, you have learned it and you can unlearn it. If nothing else, you can learn to overcome it. Mark Twain once said, Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not the absence of fear. So in essence, to get rid of your fears, just do it. Take baby steps to get over it and set goals to overcome it, to get the life you want. Thank you.